Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. We are going to continue where we left off on the last video, where we had just gotten done talking about the CW, continuous wave, and now we're on to the digital modes, the packet radio, PSK31, and all that kind of good stuff. So, when hams talk about digital modes, we're talking about modes that send digital data rather than voice or other types of analog signals, such as television. Usually, we connect our transceivers to a computer to modulate and demodulate the digital signal, but some receivers can do this automatically. So T8D01 is, which of the following is a digital communication mode? And all of these choices are correct. You got your packet radio, the IEEE 802.11, FD8, FD4, all that kind of good stuff. It's all part of the digital mode. So packet radio was one of the first digital modes. It is called packet radio because the data to be sent from station to station are separated into a number of packets, which are then sent separately by the transmitting station and received and reassembled by the receiving station. So T8D08, which of the following is included in packet radio transmissions? All of these choices are going to be correct again. So a checksum that permits error detection, a header that contains the call sign of the station to which the information is being sent, automatic repeat request in case of error. Now, I know I keep beating on this dead horse about this technician course setting the foundation for general and beyond. Again, I'm going to keep beating it. Please pay attention, spend some time on this technician course, because it literally is setting the foundation for your next exams to come. Okay, you will come across these concepts in the general exam as well. All right. So some amateur radio digital communication systems use protocols which ensure error-free communication. One such system is called the Automatic Repeat Request, or ARQ for short, transmission system. So what is an ARQ system? Transmission system, an error correction method in which the receiving station detects error and sends a request for retransmission. A request for retransmission. Okay? Again, this thing, ARQ, is this whole concept is going to come back in the general exam. So please learn it now. It's going to make your life a lot easier when you go to deal with the general exam. So APRS, Automatic Packet Reporting System, or APRS, is one service that uses packet radio. The major application of APR is to send location reports while operating a mobile amateur radio station. It can do this because APRS stations generally include a GPS receiver. In addition to sending GPS location data, amateur radio amateurs also use APRS to send text messages and weather data as well. So T8D05, which of the following is an application of APRS, providing real-time tactical digital communication in conjunction with a map showing the location of stations. So a few months ago, there was an incident that a ham was able to help out in. A family had gotten stranded off the side of the road in some desolate mountains. No cell signal or anything like that. A ham operator is driving by that family, pulls over to help them out. Turns out he has no cell signal at that in that area, and he really doesn't have an exact location. He didn't know exactly where he was at the time either, but he did have a 2 meter 440 rig in his vehicle with APRS. Was able to contact another ham who had APRS system built into his radio as well. And that other ham that he contacted was able to get his location via APRS, then contact the authority, and they were able to come and rescue this family. So, APRS, ham radio, saved the day. All right. Good thing that that family was well, and nothing really happened significantly with the family, and the ham operator was able to help out with APRS. So it is a very, very valuable instrument, piece of equipment. So T8D03, what kind of data is transmitted by APS? All of the above again: GPS, text, and weather. And yes, you can put in a message on your outgoing APRS signal, okay? And you can put in weather information in there as well. It's an amazing thing. Very, very yeah, very awesome piece of software. So a popular digital mode on the HF band is PSK31. That is a type of phase shift keying. Phase shift keying. PSK stands for phase shift keying. Again, I'm going to beat that horse again. Please, this is setting the foundation for the exams that are coming in the future. Please pay attention and build this foundation now, so it will become second nature to you when you go on to the next step. All right. PSK signals are modulated by shifting the phase of the tone being sent. So what does PSK means? Phase shift keying. Phase shift keying. It's going to come back to haunt us in future. I promise you. All right. The 31 in PSK 31 comes from the fact that the data is transmitted and received in about 31 bauds, and that the bandwidth of a PSK 31 signal is only about 31 hertz. Very, very, very small little footprint on the bands. Very small little footprint. Fortunately, that is about how fast most people can type. So DMR, digital mobile radio, is an FM communication system that is that's become quite popular in amateur radio. It allows amateur operators to use spectrums more efficiently by time multiplexing two signals in a single 12.5 kilohertz repeater channel. It also allows amateur radio operators to connect with one another over the internet. It does require internet, but it is an awesome type of digital communication via the 2 meter and the 440 band. And there are other versions as well. DMR is mostly in the ICOM radios. A lot of the ICOM radios deal with DMR, and the Yaesus have their own. It's called System Fusion. That is another amazing digital software for the 2 meters and 440. So T8D07, which of the following describes DMR? A technique for time multiplexing two digital voice signals on a single 12.5 kilohertz repeater channel. All right. So WSTJX software is a software that provides weak signal digital communication modes on amateur radio frequencies. The WSJTX software is used for Earth, Moon, Earth contacts. Yes, you can bounce signals off of the moon. Okay? 2 meter 440 signals, you can bounce them and make contacts with someone almost on the opposite side of the world. All right. So the where were we? Weak sign propagation beacons. All right. Let's reread that sentence. The WSJTX software suite is used for Earth, Moon, Earth contacts, weak sign propagation beacons, and meteor scatters. All right. Not only you can bounce signals off of the moon, but you can bounce signals off of the meteor scatters as well. You don't have much time for bouncing a signal off of a meteor scatter, but it is possible. So to communicate, let me turn this off real quick. So to communicate with one of the digital modes that WSJT software provides, you need a single sideband receiver and a personal computer with a sound card. So T8D10, which of the following operating activities is supported by digital mode software and WSJTX software? So all of these are correct. Okay. Earth, Moon, Earth, Moon, Earth, weak signal propagation beacon, and meteor scatter. FD8. FD8 is one of the modes supported by WSJT. FD8 is a digital mode that we talked about a few minutes ago. It is very, very, very popular, especially in the POTA activation, POTA, field, parks on the air. You can basically, you're basically changing signal reports, your call sign and your signal report, and sometimes your grid squares and things like that. So very, very efficient. It doesn't need that great of strength in your signal. All right. It has a very, very low signal to noise operation. So it could be very weak. The signal could be very weak, but your computer will be able to pick it up without any kind of issues at all. So mesh networking is another amateur radio activity that's becoming popular. Mesh networks use Wi-Fi frequencies that just happen to be part of the 2.4 gigahertz, 5.8 gigahertz, and 10 gigahertz amateur bands. So if you know anything about networking, you know that most of the Wi-Fi signals operate around the 2.4 gigahertz area. That is part of the amateur band, believe it or not. So mesh networks allow amateur radios to establish digital communication link for supporting high-speed emergency communication and internet connectivity. Broadband, Hamnet, and Amateur Radio Emergency Data Network, ARDEN, are two projects that use mesh networking to provide digital communications. So if you are into disaster relief and things like that, and especially if you're part of our disaster relief organization, Humanity First, this is a very good little system to learn, the Arden Mesh Network. All right, it basically will allow you to set up your own internet connection when you have no internet connection at all. So TAD12, which of the following best describes an amateur radio mesh network? An amateur radio based data network using commercial Wi-Fi equipment with modified firmware. So you basically setting up your own entire network, and you're using radio frequency waves to communicate. All right. So amateur radio station safety, very important. Electrical safety. So be safe. That kind of goes without saying. Be safe. When operating or working on amateur radio equipment, it's possible to come into contact with dangerous voltages and currents. People have died working on high voltage currents. Yes, because it would be a shame to lose a single person. It's important to know how to be safe when working with electricity. 30 volts of commonly accepted 30 volts is the commonly accepted value for the lowest voltage that can cause a dangerous electric shock, and only 100 milliamps flowing through the body can cause death. These are not large values. No, they are not. They are not large values at all. Most of your radios, when you're operating, they go up to 100 watts, and you only need I think a 100 watt radio is going to be operating around 24 amps, somewhere around there, 20 to 25 amps. So yeah, you need to be really careful, please. T0A02, a health hazard is presented by electrical current flowing through the body. What health hazard is presented by electrical current flowing through the body? So all of these are correct. It may cause injury by heating tissue. It may disrupt the electrical functions of the cell. It may cause involuntary muscle contractions. So start by ensuring that your amateur radio has 3-wire electrical outlets that are properly wired and grounded. When properly wired, 3-wire electrical outlets are and plugs are safer than 2-wire outlets and prongs, and you should use 3-wire plugs for all your amateur radio equipment. Nowadays, it's almost impossible to find the 2-wire outlets unless you're in some really old historical house. Common, you're not going to really have to worry about that at all. So in the United States, the 3 wires are hot, neutral, and safety ground. All right. So these are coded black, white, and green, respectively. So black is hot, white is neutral, and green is ground. All right. So in addition to ensuring that all AC outlets are properly wired, install mechanical interlocks in high voltage circuits that disconnect power when equipment enclosures that contain those circuits are open. All right. So T0A03 in United States, what circuit does black wire insulation indicate? What circuit does black wire insulation indicate in a 3-wire 120 volt cable? So what does the black wire stand for? The hot. All right. So T0A06, what is a good way to guard against electrical shock at your station? What is a good way of guarding against electrical shock? All of these are going to be correct again. Use 3-wire cords and plugs. Connect all AC powered station equipment to a common safety ground. Install mechanical interlocks in high voltage circuits. So installing fuses in electrical circuits is the main way to protect a circuit from excessive current overflow or overload. Fuses are designed to blow or remove power from the equipment if current flowing through them exceeds a specified value. Fuses should always be in series with the hot conductor only. It's recommended not to put a fuse in your on the negative side. All right. I have seen people do it. I have seen manufacturers do it as well. It's not really recommended, but it is done. Okay. Try not to do it. All right. Try to only put a fuse in the on the positive end. All right. So T0A04. What is the purpose of a fuse in an electrical circuit? To remove power in case of overload. T0A08. Where should a fuse or circuit breaker be installed in a 120 volt AC power circuit? On the hot side, on the hot conductor only. The black wire or the red wire. All right. So when replacing a fuse, always replace a fuse with a fuse of the same type and value. Please do that. Okay. Same type, same value. If it's a 15 amp circuit, put a 15 amp amp fuse in there. Don't replace it with a 20 or a 30 amp, and you sure don't want to put a 10 amp fuse in a 15 amp circuit. All right. You're going to cause issues if you put a larger size fuse in there and you go above 15 amps. The wires are going to start to heat up and eventually poof, catch on fire. If you put a 10 amp fuse in a 15 amp circuit, you're gonna be tripping it every second. Every time you plug it in and you turn your equipment on, you're gonna be tripping it because your equipment is asking for 13 or 14 amps and you're only allowing 10 amps to go through. So yeah, you're not gonna have fun. So T0A05, why should a 5 amp fuse never be replaced with 20 amp fuse? Like I just said, it's gonna end up causing some issues inside your wall. All right, it is definitely going to cause some issues and heat up, and the wires inside the wall are going to start to catch on fire. So whenever you're working on equipment, be sure to disconnect it from the power lines, and even then be careful when working near a power supply capacitor. Why? Because capacitors have a tendency of storing some power. All right, you gotta let it cool down. You gotta let it discharge. All right. Some power supplies have large capacitors in their output circuits that can store a lot of charge. Yep. And if you come into contact with any of them before they are discharged, you may receive an electrical shock. I always measure a power supply's output voltage before working on it or connecting it or disconnecting the equipment to the supply. So just unplug it, wait a little while, let the capacitors drain. Okay. Excuse me. So T0A11. What hazard is in a power supply immediately after turning it off? You still haven't drained all the power. There's still some power that is stored in the capacitors. Please remember that. You got to give it some time, let it drain out. So you also need to take precautions when using batteries to power amateur radios. Conventional 12-volt batteries present several safety hazards. T0A01, which of the following is a safety hazard for a 12-volt storage battery? Shorting the terminals can cause burns, fire, and an explosion. So, perfect example of this is if you're trying to jump a car. So you hook the positive and the negative onto the car that's running, all right? And if you ever make the mistake of touching the other end that's going to go to the car that's dead, if you ever make the mistake of touching those two clamps, all right, you're going to get a spark. So same thing, don't do that, please. All right. Not when you jump in a car, not when you're hooking anything to a battery. You don't want to touch positive and a negative together. So T0A10. What hazard is caused by charging or discharging a battery too quickly? Overheating or outgassing. Overheating or outgassing. All right. So thank you very much for joining. And please, again, keep studying. This technician course is building the foundation for the rest of your ham career. All right. Most of this stuff is going to keep coming back. So if you pay a little bit of attention now, it'll make things so much easier for you later on down the road. Again, thank you very much for joining. Have a great day.